Last week, Atomic Provisions, the company behind Atomic Cowboy, Denver Biscuit Company, and Fat Sully's, was ordered to pay more than $800,000 to employees who filed a class action lawsuit. They accused the company of stealing wages from hundreds of workers across the state. The restaurant, of course, owns and operates several restaurants around the Denver area and the state. With more on this settlement, we bring in 9 News legal expert Whitney Traylor.
Hello.
We've already been quizzing him about this a little.
Well, because we're talking about Atomic Provisions, because that is the settlement we're talking about. But you say this is not uncommon. So tell us what the allegations are and about this settlement.
Well, and when I say it's not uncommon, I'm really referring to wage and hour issues because, and especially when you have a restaurant, there's a lot of moving parts. The law changes regularly. And actually, and I don't know if this was nebulous or if this was an innocent mistake, but the allegations in the complaint were really from the employees who receive tips. So minimum wage in Colorado for non-tipped employees is around $15. Mm-hmm. For tipped employees, it's around $12 because the tips should make it up.
Right.
Well, what they were doing was they were paying them the tipped wages, the lower wage of $12, while they were doing other things like stocking, cleaning, opening, closing, all these things where they won't receive tips. And so they filed a claim under the federal and state law, and that's what led to this settlement.
That explains it. I was wondering the same thing. So why this much? What comes into that number, and why this much in the settlement?
Well, there's so many different factors that come into play, and most civil cases settle, and they should, because you don't want to spend 2 years litigating and then have 12 strangers make a decision. So here they did settle, and the company is not admitting any liability, so that's not unusual, although some people might say, well, why settle? And the reason is you look at the attorney fees, the business costs, the time, the potential media. And so here there were almost 700 employees. And this would be a really difficult case to try because of the amount of discovery. Think about it. You have a couple hundred employees, or no, I think it was actually 700 employees, and you're having to look at all of their schedules, what time they worked, that would be a really expensive trial.
I'm trying to do the math in my head.
Right.
It's sort of mathing, but if there are 700 employees, the attorneys get what, 30% or something like that? 800,000, it's a lot of money, but once you take the 30% out and you split it among 700 employees, is this a principal thing?
Well, that's a good point. And some people will criticize and say, well, wait a second, the lawyers are getting 30%. So in this case, I think it was reported that they got $266,000. But the response to that, and I'm not, I am a lawyer. I have taken some employment cases on contingency, and I've done some hourly. But the issue with the contingency is usually the lawyer fronts the cost. There's no guarantee that they're going to win.
Right.
If you go to trial, you're going to spend 2 to 3 years on that case. So when you take in all of those into consideration, it matters. And it also matters because they're keeping these companies on the straight and narrow. So even if the employees are only getting $1,000 here or there, they're being made whole, but it's holding the Atomic Provisions feet to the fire. And so it's really saying, hey, if we don't pay these folks properly, we could face a class action.
And it'll happen again, as it always does.
Yes.
And it's important you bring out that settlement thing, because then the lawyer's fees start growing.
Right.
And then everything else, and it's a brand.
Yeah.
It's a brand.
Yeah.
They, like you said, media attention, everything else.
Yeah.
Okay, Whitney. We'll wait for the next one for you, because you do a lot of employment
Yes.
law.
Yes, I'll be there. Maybe on this side of the desk.
Thank goodness you're not charging us, because like for every minute we go gabbing.
Wait, I'm not getting paid?
No.
Just not from us.
I mean, different then.
Okay.